So, Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow, a very popular DC character and a character since the golden age of comics. But despite finding success in television, we still haven't had a movie yet. But in terms of appearing on that big screen, for the longest time now, there's been a big fan desire there. So today, what I'm going to get into is not only the history as to why I think we haven't had Oliver Queen / Green Arrow appear in a DCEU or in some kind of movie, but also when and will we see the Green Arrow soon. And also, just a little side note here, with the upcoming Black Canary movie, recent rumors suggest that Warner Brothers is eyeing an Oliver Queen that could indeed be appearing in that movie, and I'll say as to why, rumor or no rumor with regards to the casting, why Oliver Queen could very well be appearing on the big screen pretty soon. And I really mean this when I say this. Like, I do think the time is coming soon for how that character is more relevant than ever. And just interestingly, why perhaps he kind of wasn't as much beforehand. So why hasn't it necessarily happened so far, at least from my perspective? So I think to start with, the biggest reason as to why we haven't had the Green Arrow on the movie side of things so far, and why he hasn't necessarily been launched into the DCEU up until this point, but why there is still hope for this now more than ever, is because of like the typical, well, first of all, comments of, oh, he's an Arrow version of Batman. Are we really gonna have like two rich billionaire playboy-esque type vigilantes at the front-face figurehead of the DCEU, you know, with Ben Affleck's Batman, and now Oliver Queen, whoever that will be, and we'll get into that in a little bit, maybe. But the most interesting thing to me as to why things are starting to feel like the ball is rolling in the right direction is because for the longest time now, the DCEU has had things more or less completely up in the air with regards to moving forward. Although it is now moving forward nonetheless, with that of the soft reboot that is the Flash movie. We know that we'll still have the DCEU moving forward. We've been over this a bunch of times before. Despite the changes that the Flash movie is going to make, we're still going to have Jason Momoa's Aquaman in Aquaman 2, Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods, another Wonder Woman eventually. We've got Black Adam coming in, as well as a new character, Batgirl, among other new characters. And so with that somewhat soft reboot of the DCEU with the Flash movie, could Green Arrow fit in? Well, yes. Really, honestly, yes. And this is where I kind of go back as to why Oliver Queen hasn't been necessarily involved up until this point anyway. And that goes back to the comment or opinion that whether you agree or disagree with it and could still suggest ways that Oliver Queen could have been implemented in the DCEU alongside Batfleck up until this point, I feel like the way that they're looking at it when orchestrating the DCEU in the early days up until more or less nowadays, from kind of a business and strategic decision sense of incorporating the character of Oliver Queen, when you really strip it all away, bare bones style, I'm not saying they're the same character. Trust me, I'm a big fan of Batman and a big fan of Green Arrow. But super traditionalist wise, they're both rich, playboy-esque vigilantes of whom, instead of, I guess in Oliver Queen's stance, instead of relying on Batman's techniques, he has a bow and arrow. But even then, without that, Oliver is also very skilled at hand-to-hand combat as well. So at face value there, when you go back to Batman vs. Superman and even beyond Justice League, and even after all of that went to crap, we still didn't know what was going on with Batfleck and, oh, is this going forward, or what's the future of the DCU? And then they finally have somewhat pitched, okay, we're going to kind of do a bit of a soft reboot of the Flash movie. You can understand when Ben Affleck was a big thing, bringing the Justice League together in the early days of the DCEU, that perhaps they thought as to why Oliver Queen isn't a character to thrust in there at the same time, is that more or less from their perspective, are you really going to have two billionaire playboy-esque type vigilantes? I mean, sure, you could, and I know there will always be defenses for how they could have still done it, but I think they thought we're going to do it maybe one day, and things actually have worked out to the point of where, as I keep saying now, it is the most opportune time more than ever. And that is because of the new phase, if you will, not to just liken it to a Marvel Cinematic Universe, but truly the DCEU's new phase post-Flashpoint and all the movies that have yet to come, with also the new somewhat continuity. It is slightly being retconned. To give you somewhat of a weird analogy, it's not like they're restarting or going new game, hard rebooting the whole universe. It's more like load, save game, and you've got to go back into the game and maybe make different choices than what you did in your previous save that you've now somewhat deleted or are trying to forge a new path with. They're keeping some actors, as we discussed, as well as some continuity, yet also changing some completely up. So now, with the rich billionaire vigilante type Ben Affleck Bruce Wayne is gone, for all we have got the message of right now. I mean, he's not having any solo Batman movies that we know of or anything like that. And as far as we're concerned and everything like that, that's being left to Matt Reeves' little pocket universe that is disconnected from that of the DCEU side of things over here. Well, in the new post-Flash movie, post-Flashpoint universe of the DCEU, if you're still with me, there is literally a big gaping space for a billionaire vigilante type, Oliver Queen. And I think they can do it without retreading the whole, oh yeah, but we just had that in the Snyderverse with Ben Affleck, are we going to go to another billionaire vigilante? I mean, obviously they're going to try and strive for a new flavor, and obviously at the same time, Oliver Queen is not Bruce Wayne. They are different people. And what's even better to consider here is that, yes, there is, some of you may be thinking, but Boba, there's still a Bruce Wayne, so what do you mean? There's still going to be a rich billionaire vigilante type. Yes, you're right, but that actually doesn't really matter anymore, because post-Flashpoint, we have Michael Keaton as Batman and Bruce Wayne. A much older, worn-down Batman. And if anything, it could be pretty cool to have a Green Arrow in future movies much younger than Batman, because maybe Batman could see a bit of himself in the younger, new vigilante Oliver Queen billionaire type. And I know he still suits up in the Flash movie, Keaton that is, in his new-ish kind of, yet also tribute Batsuit to the old days. Also in the Batgirl movie, apparently. But, again, he's not exactly gonna be the new prominent billionaire vigilante playboy type, whereas before it just almost doesn't make as much sense to, hey, yeah, look, there's Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne, really rich, you know, this is the early days of the DCEU. Hey, look, there's Oliver Queen, also really rich, similar kind of character in terms of face value. I felt like that wasn't remotely a part of their roadmap, but now, again, I know I keep beating a dead horse with this. It's just so woefully transparent that they can do it. Especially with Keaton not remotely going to be as front and center as Ben Affleck's Batman was. I mean, I'm looking forward to Michael Keaton's new kind of grandfather advisory type role in the future of the DCEU movies as an older Bruce Wayne, with this continuity somewhat changed after whatever freaking Barry Allen screws with the timeline with. But everyone else is kind of still young. Like Aquaman, Jason Momoa is still the same age, yet Bruce is kind of just aged up in a way. We're going to have Barry being the same age. We're going to have Wonder Woman looking the same. Black Canary, which we're about to get onto, looking the same. Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. So you see what I mean with what Flashpoint, the Flash movie, is doing. Things out with the old, in with the new, yet keeping some of the same as well. So bottom line and all of that kind of recap talk as to the circumstances that maybe led to Oliver Queen not being in the DCEU up until now, it's kind of now just like, what are we waiting for? And this is where those recent rumors come in. And as usual, guys, I want to say take things with a lump of salt, but it's certainly something interesting to consider, especially with how I feel like the DC universe in its movie form, again, I know I keep saying this, but it's ready for the Green Arrow more than ever. So when you kind of look at what's coming in the pipeline, but let's start with, as we know, we're getting a Black Canary movie. And there was actually kind of, if you will, a recent update just somewhat even confirming that even more, because I'm assuming that some people out there are thinking, wait, we're still getting a Black Canary movie? They didn't scrap that? In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, they asked her about it not so long ago, and she said, I can't talk about it. As you know, she laughs, but I can say I am really excited about what we're developing. And also, just, you can also add in the comments down below, what kind of speculation do you think could go into, sure, this is the same Black Canary, if you will, in terms of casting, but do you think there's going to be any changes considering the Flash movie? Because post-Flash movie, we're still going to have Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, but I do wonder if now with, again, the Flash movie retconning a few things, soft rebooting a few things, Superman's kind of left on the bench, Sasha Calle Supergirl, or we've got Batgirl, or Michael Keaton. It makes you think what other subtle changes they're going to do, and one of them, as I keep freaking saying the whole video, Oliver Queen. Especially considering I can't imagine this Black Canary movie will be coming out before the Flash movie. So with the Black Canary movie still very clearly happening, and I shouldn't even need to explain the clear connection between Oliver Queen and Black Canary. And before we get, I know I keep teasing it, before we get into that latest rumor from Warner Brothers eyeing someone for the role, let's just very briefly talk about fan casts, because I feel like people would just ask me about it if I didn't mention it. I know there's been a lot of fan casts for the Green Arrow in the movie side of things, and I know a lot of people, even myself, have looked towards Charlie Hunnam. I've been a big fan of, Sons of Anarchy in the past, so I really did enjoy the idea of that fan casting. I know some people have got fatigued with that idea now, fair enough, because there are other actors other than Charlie Hunnam, and, a lot of info gets tossed around out there with regards to Charlie Hunnam that he's not remotely interested, and I know what people were saying there, but that's technically not strictly true, because that's not the order of updates, because he wasn't initially interested in all the fan castings of him as Green Arrow, because he said that he's not interested in playing a superhero, but after those comments, he did somewhat change his stance, because long story short, when it got brought up in an interview after those comments, he even said, well, come on DC, like literally saying this to the camera, what's up, give me a call, I'm here. Now, I'm sure it was also a bit for like, hey, yeah, but at this point, he kept hearing about it. He kept hearing about it. Initially, he was like, well, I don't want to play a superhero, but he kept hearing about it, and in the middle of the interview, he looks at the camera and says that. And then, fast forward some time after that, he was asked in another interview, and what I found very interesting about this, and I don't see remotely a lot of people talking about this, and I wish he kept on talking about it, but the interviewer kind of interrupted him saying something else, and he kind of broke his speech with what he was saying. But Charlie Hunnam, when talking about Green Arrow again, after all of this chronological, commentary about the fan castings, he said, and actually on the Green Arrow, there was a little smoke behind that fire, or fire behind that smoke. Which makes me think, by that point, I'm not saying like anything legitimate had happened, but I do wonder if the rumors did get up until a point of where his agent or whatever just had some kind of, hey, would you be interested in this if we ever do it in the future? Just like how you might hear said actor had a conversation with Marvel about some upcoming role, but Kevin Feige and said actor haven't settled on anything yet. Could have been something as light as that, but I don't need to waste time on this because I don't think Charlie Hunnam is ultimately going to be it, but it is interesting to just ponder if after years and years of commenting about it in interviews, he then, eventually said there's maybe a little bit of smoke behind that fire, or there was, before he got cut off in the interview. But carrying on, lots of other people were casting Dev Patel. When I first heard that, I was like, yes, I can 100% see that, so I was really down for that. But again, these are just fan castings, and what, pray tell, is the latest rumor, albeit a rumor, but especially with, as I keep saying, I definitely see this Green Arrow movie in the future, or not movie per se, but appearance. That's the most important thing, like just a live action casting character within the future DCU movies that could lead to a movie after that. Well, recently, and again, grain of salt, guys, there's been rumors of Warner Brothers eyeing none other than Austin Butler for the role of the Green Arrow in this upcoming Black Canary movie. Now, for me, again, this is a rumor. I know I keep repeating that, but it's so important for me to stress it because people quite usually hear something and just run with it. But with what I've already gone over with how Oliver Queen in the DCU being the main vigilante billionaire, again, the main vigilante, so to speak, role, and how that's more relevant than ever, it seems to just make a lot of sense to me that whether or not this rumor is true, that there's a big likelihood of Oliver being in this Black Canary movie that is being worked on. It's in development. They're still going forward with. Also, just Austin Butler as well is a very interesting choice because you could argue that Warner Brothers are trying to keep it in-house, so to speak, given Elvis, that maybe they're trying to eye him for the role, saying, hey, look, you're already a part of, Elvis and stuff. We like what you did there, and how do you feel about, we're not like promising a movie or anything, but what do you say to maybe appearing in a role as the Green Arrow in the upcoming Black Canary movie that is underway? If this is true, and granted, it's only being eyed, he hasn't signed anything, he's not in talks, again, rumor. But the funny thing is, if true, Austin Butler played Chase on Arrow, the DJ at Oliver's club, who was secretly a member of the League of Assassins sent to kill Thea Queen. And Austin Butler has come a long way since then, because he's come from being a minor character in Arrow in the earlier seasons to being a big actor in Elvis for Warner Brothers. And with the success of Elvis, it is very much so projected, especially, and I endorse Elvis quite a bit. He was, you know, I have a few thoughts about the film and the way it was cut and stuff like that, but Austin Butler as Elvis, absolutely impeccably great performance. And he is very much so projected for stardom in Hollywood. Even that aside, trust me, I've really digged Charlie Hunnam in the past, Dev Patel or whatever, but I can really see Austin Butler as Oliver Queen. Like, think about it, guys. Imagine this new DCEU. I know I've been beating a dead horse at this point with going on about the post-Flashpoint Flash movie universe, where we have Keaton as the old man, quite literally old man Bruce Wayne, not so front and center, which is why you maybe wouldn't have been the best choice to have Oliver Queen and Ben Affleck, youngish Bruce Wayne, in the DCU at the same time. But now, an Austin Butler type Green Arrow, when you're doing a Black Canary movie, maybe not doing a movie straight away, but at least having him in the Black Canary movie. And then considering that the Flash movie, albeit, yes, I am aware of the drama behind it, you know, but at the end of the day, they're still releasing it. As we've said, it's so pivotal to start the domino fall for the next set of DC movies and what their plans are. He has to be in it. Like, it's such a stupidly missed opportunity when you don't really have a young male type vigilante figure in the new DCEU after the Flash movie. I say male because, you know, we have an older Keaton, but supposedly, especially with Batgirl, she's meant to be the younger vigilante type figure, which is awesome. I'm really looking forward to Batgirl, really looking forward to Leslie Grace's performance, Brendan Fraser as Firefly. But when we're talking about maybe the male vigilante, who's going to fill that role, who's going to be the next one with that, hey, well, since you got Bruce Wayne as an old guy who's not really suiting up as much, Oliver is right there. But with Austin Butler, I see it. I do see him acting very well in the role. It's interesting to consider that it would be in-house. You know, I think he would entertain the idea of it if they contacted him. Not that I know the guy, but it just seems to make sense to me. It wouldn't be committing to anything absolutely humongous at first. It would just be a role in the Black Canary film. And then with the open literal spot, like, it's like the door is open for Oliver Queen to walk through the door in this new DCEU. It just feels like a no-brainer. So everyone, let me know what you think about all of this. And are you game for Oliver Queen? Do you agree that whether or not that's not why he was introduced beforehand, that he is more than relevant to come in now, especially with the upcoming Black Canary movie? What do you think of the rumor of Austin Butler? Again, might not be remotely true, but again, I'm sure many people will be like, but I want this person. But again, let's just assume that the rumor is true. I'd be very happy. Seriously. Like, Austin Butler's a talented-ass guy, and he definitely looks like he can be Oliver. Anyway, guys, just a little bit of a bonusy video on this. I will be keeping you up to date with any kind of Green Arrow news, of course, in the movie side of things with regards to Black Canary, and just, you know, we're quite on top of DC news here as things unfold in, again, what is brand new coming after Flashpoint. So do subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and just ultimately let me know your thoughts, because I read every single comment, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you have to say. So everyone, I'm gonna love you and leave you now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, vigilantes, I suppose, in the next video. Goodbye.